What if the power to create life, inspire love, and unleash destruction all belong to one divine being? Across the rivers of West Africa, and through the heartbeat of the African diaspora, this power has always flowed through Oshun, the Orisha of sweetness, beauty, and unstoppable waters. To understand her is to understand the balance between creation and destruction, abundance and loss, joy and sacrifice. She is beauty, she is power, she is love, and she is feared. From the gentle flow of rivers to the raging flood, Oshun holds the balance of life itself. But who is Oshun, the Orisha who has captivated hearts for centuries and continues to be honored across the world today? Oshun is one of the most central and cherished deities of the Yoruba religion, a tradition born in West Africa and carried far across the globe. She embodies duality, nurturing love, beauty, and fertility, yet also wielding the fierce power of water's destruction. In this episode, we'll explore her place within Yoruba cosmology, the myths and symbols that tell her story, and the rituals that keep her spirit alive among her devotees. Oshun is more than a goddess of rivers. She is the essence of feminine wisdom, sacrifice, and transformation. And in today's world, her legacy continues to inspire and empower, serving as a timeless reminder of the resilience of tradition and the divine feminine. In the expansive pantheon of the Yoruba religion, a spiritual universe with more than 400 gods and goddesses known as Orishas, Oshun shines as one of the most beloved and widely venerated. Her origins trace back to the Yoruba people of southwestern Nigeria and Benin, but her influence has flowed far beyond, carried across the seas through the African diaspora, and woven into spiritual traditions like Santeria in Cuba and Candomblé in Brazil. Oshun is most often celebrated as the Orisha of love, beauty, and sensuality, yet her reach is far greater. She governs fertility, prosperity, wealth, and the life-giving force of freshwater. Her sacred home is the Osun River in Nigeria, a living sanctuary that bears her name and continues to serve as the heart of her worship. But to truly know Oshun is to embrace her complexity. She is the mother of sweet things, a compassionate healer whose presence brings joy, harmony, and abundance. At the same time, she embodies very human qualities: vanity, jealousy, and anger. In her stories, she emerges as both nurturing creator and fierce avenger, capable of deep tenderness, but also swift retribution when disrespected. Like the rivers she represents, Oshun's essence is fluid and dual, calm and serene when honored, turbulent and destructive when ignored. This balance is not contradiction but wisdom, teaching us that the forces which sustain life also hold the power to reshape it. Oshun is, in every sense, a reminder of the beauty and the danger of water, of love, and of divine feminine power. Oshun's role in Yoruba cosmology is nothing short of foundational. In the sacred creation myths, Olodumare, the supreme god, sent 17 primordial spirits, the Orishas, to Earth with the task of shaping and populating the barren world. Among them, Oshun stood as the only female, embodying the essential presence of the feminine principle within the divine plan. Yet the male Orishas chose to disregard her. Acting without her counsel, they attempted to revive and cultivate the earth on their own. Their efforts failed miserably. The planet remained dry, lifeless, and uninhabitable. This failure was no accident. It was a direct reflection of their arrogance and their dismissal of the feminine. The myth makes a striking declaration: creation cannot be achieved through masculine force alone. It requires balance, nurturing, harmony, and wisdom, the very essence Oshun carried within her. When the Orishas finally humbled themselves and sought her help, Oshun released her sweet and fertile waters. With her gifts of love, fertility, and compassion, she transformed the dry earth into a living world. Rivers began to flow, plants took root, animals thrived, and humanity came into being. In this way, Oshun is not only remembered as a creator, but also as a savior, the one whose intervention ensured the flourishing of life itself. Water for Oshun is more than a symbol. It is her power and her sanctuary. In one myth, she gained dominion over rivers after escaping the god Ogun, who pursued her relentlessly. Fleeing into the waters, she was rescued by Yemaya, the great mother of the sea, and often considered Oshun's elder sister or mother. In an act of empowerment, Yemaya granted Oshun authority over all freshwater. From that moment forward, every river, stream, and brook became her sacred domain, distinct from Yemaya's vast salt oceans. This cosmology reminds us that Oshun is the lifeblood of creation. Her waters are the gentle streams that nourish and the fierce currents that reshape. She is the embodiment of balance, proving that without the feminine, there is no creation, no fertility, and no future. Oshun is a goddess defined by paradox, a divine force of sweetness and wrath, compassion and retribution. She is above all the embodiment of feminine power in its fullest expression. On one hand, Oshun is the gentle nurturer. Devotees call upon her for guidance in love, relationships, and emotional well-being. Women pray to her for fertility and safe childbirth, and mothers entrust their children to her protection until they are old enough to speak. She is the radiant embodiment of allure, charm, and magnetism, qualities that captivate not only humans, but even the Orishas themselves. Her blessings extend beyond romance into health, prosperity, and joy, ensuring abundance in the lives of those who honor her. Yet Oshun's sweetness is never weakness. As a goddess of creation, she also wields the power of destruction. When neglected, disrespected, or when humanity turns against the natural order, Oshun responds with the waters she commands. In myth, she withholds rivers, plunging the world into drought, or unleashes floods that devastate crops and threaten human survival. These acts are not blind cruelty, but divine correction, reminders that life and nature are reciprocal. The same forces that sustain us also hold us accountable. What makes Oshun especially remarkable is that her strength is often expressed not through brute force, but through subtlety, charm, and wisdom. She is a master of what we might call soft power, the ability to transform situations through persuasion, allure, and intelligence. One of her most famous myths tells of how she lured Ogun, the god of iron and war, out of the forest when he abandoned the world in anger. While other Orishas failed to persuade him, Oshun's dance, beauty, and wit succeeded, restoring balance and saving humanity from drought. Through this duality, Oshun reveals an enduring spiritual truth. True strength is not found only in might or domination. It is also found in love, care, and the ability to nurture. She is both the gentle stream and the raging flood, reminding us that the divine feminine is never singular, but layered, complex, and essential for life itself. Among the many myths of Oshun, one of the most profound is the story of her sacrifice, a tale that transforms her from a goddess of beauty into a divine messenger for all eternity. In the earliest days of creation, a group of Orishas grew weary of serving Olodumare, the supreme god, and plotted rebellion. In response, Olodumare withheld the rains, plunging the earth into a relentless drought. Rivers dried up, crops withered, and humanity suffered on the brink of extinction. Realizing the magnitude of their error, the rebellious Orishas sought forgiveness. But Olodumare's heavenly palace was far beyond their reach, and none dared attempt the perilous journey. It was Oshun, often dismissed by her peers as vain and pampered, who volunteered to go. She transformed into a peacock, radiant and proud, and soared toward the sun on her mission of intercession. But the higher she climbed, the harsher the sun's fire burned. Her brilliant feathers blackened, her beauty withered, and her body weakened. Still, she pressed on. In her final act of self-denial, Oshun surrendered the very thing she was most known for, her beauty, in order to save the world. By the time she reached Olodumare's palace, she was no longer the dazzling peacock but a scorched, scraggly vulture. And yet, in this humble, battered form, she was received with honor. Moved by her courage, sacrifice, and devotion to humanity, Olodumare restored the rains, bringing life back to the parched earth. As a mark of eternal recognition, he named Oshun his personal messenger forever. From that moment, she became known as Ikole the Vulture, a sacred title in the Lukumi tradition. This myth overturns the shallow perception of Oshun as a goddess concerned only with vanity. Instead, it reveals the depth of her character. True beauty lies not in appearance, but in selfless sacrifice. Her greatest honor, her eternal role as divine messenger, was won not through charm or allure, but through compassion, resilience, and the willingness to give everything for the sake of life itself. Oshun's story is never told in isolation. Her mythology is deeply woven into the lives, conflicts, and alliances of the other Orishas, creating a rich web of relationships that mirrors the complexities of human life itself. Her most profound familial bond is with Yemaya, the great mother of the seas. Yemaya is often described as Oshun's elder sister or even her mother, reflecting the eternal link between river and ocean. In this sacred kinship, Oshun's rivers are understood as flowing inevitably toward Yemaya's vast salt waters, yet always charting their own distinct, winding course. This relationship reminds us that while all waters are connected, each maintains its unique essence. Oshun's romantic connections are equally central to her mythology. She is widely revered as the beloved consort of Shango, the fiery god of thunder and lightning. Their union represents the powerful marriage of passion and beauty, thunder and flowing waters. Yet their love story is not without turbulence. In one of the most famous myths, a rivalry unfolds between Oshun and Oba, another wife of Shango. Deceived into believing that Oshun gained favor by offering Shango a meal flavored with her own ear, Oba mimicked the act, only to be scorned and humiliated. This tragic tale illustrates jealousy, betrayal, and Oshun's own role in the often harsh dramas of the divine pantheon. Another significant tie binds her to Orunmila, the Orisha of wisdom and divination. In one myth, while Orunmila was away, clients came to his home in search of guidance. Oshun, already familiar with her husband's work, accepted their offerings of cowries and performed divinations herself. Her accuracy and insight astounded them. When Orunmila returned, rather than scolding her, he recognized her natural gift and granted her a share in the sacred art of divination. This story elevates Oshun beyond the realms of beauty and love, affirming her as a source of foresight, destiny, and deep spiritual wisdom. Through these relationships, with Yemaya, with Shango, with Orunmila, Oshun emerges not only as a goddess of rivers and fertility, but as a dynamic figure of kinship, love, rivalry, and wisdom. Her mythology reflects both the harmony and the conflict inherent in divine and human relationships, showing us that even the gods navigate the complexities of family, passion, and power. The presence of Oshun is not only felt in myth and ritual, but also expressed through a vivid language of symbols. Each color, object, and animal associated with her reveals a different facet of her divine nature and the lessons she imparts to her devotees. Her colors are yellow, gold, and amber, radiant hues that capture her ties to sunlight, prosperity, and joy. To honor Oshun with these colors is to invite her warmth and abundance into one's life. The number 5 is sacred to her, recurring in offerings, dances, and ceremonies as a reminder of her spiritual signature. Among her sacred animals, 2 stand out above all: the peacock and the vulture. The peacock embodies her beauty, grace, and regal charm, while the vulture recalls her ultimate sacrifice in flying to Olodumare's palace. These 2 creatures together mirror the duality of Oshun, radiant allure balanced with selfless devotion. Other animals, like monkeys, fish, and snakes, also symbolize her many aspects: intelligence, fertility, adaptability, and transformation. On her altars and in sacred depictions, Oshun is often surrounded by mirrors, brass or gold jewelry, and fans. These are not mere ornaments but instruments of her power. The mirror reflects her essence of self-love and self-awareness, reminding devotees to see beauty within themselves. The fan represents her gentle ability to calm tempers and soothe troubled spirits. Her jewelry, shimmering in gold and brass, signifies the wealth, elegance, and divine radiance she bestows upon her followers. Sweetness lies at the heart of her worship. Honey, oranges, cinnamon, and pumpkins are among her most cherished offerings. Yet even these hold deeper meaning. In ritual practice, devotees must taste the honey before placing it on her altar. This act recalls the myth in which Oshun was once offered poisoned honey, leaving her forever cautious. By tasting it first, the devotee shares in her vulnerability while proving their sincerity. In that moment, the offering ceases to be just food. It becomes a gesture of trust, intimacy, and reciprocity between human and goddess. Through these symbols, Oshun teaches that beauty is not only to be admired but lived, that sweetness must be safeguarded, and that every offering carries within it a relationship. Her iconography is more than sacred art. It is a living dialogue between the divine and the devotee. The worship of Oshun is not confined to myth or history. It is a living, breathing tradition that continues to flourish across the world today. Her presence is most profoundly felt in Nigeria, at the Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove, her principal sanctuary. This lush forest, now protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is filled with shrines and sacred spaces dedicated to Oshun and other Orishas. Every year in August, thousands of devotees gather for the Osun-Osogbo festival, a 2-week celebration of dance, prayer, sacrifice, and renewal. At this festival, offerings are made to Oshun, not only for wealth, fertility, and health, but for the blessings of balance and harmony in life itself. Yet Oshun's worship is not reserved only for grand public festivals. Across Nigeria, the Caribbean, Brazil, and the Americas, her veneration is also practiced in more intimate settings. Many devotees build home altars draped in yellow or gold, decorated with mirrors, fans, river stones, or her sacred images. Offerings of honey, oranges, cinnamon, and pumpkins are placed with care, each item carrying symbolic meaning. Simple rituals, like lighting a yellow candle with honey to ask for love, or offering oranges and cinnamon for prosperity, reflect the personal, daily dialogue between Oshun and her followers. Music, dance, and prayer lie at the heart of her worship. Devotees sing to her, play drums to call her presence, and dance in movements that mimic the flowing waters she governs. In the Regla de Ocho tradition of Cuba, a unique ceremony known as the violines performed in her honor. This ritual blends European classical music with Cuban rhythms, creating a soundscape that embodies Oshun's essence, graceful, elegant, and enchanting. Through these practices, Oshun's worship remains dynamic, blending tradition with adaptation, intimacy with grandeur. Whether in the sacred grove of Osogbo or in the quiet corner of a home altar, every act of devotion seeks to connect with her sweetness, her wisdom, and her strength. In honoring Oshun, devotees are reminded to live with grace, to cherish beauty, and to walk in harmony with the waters of life. Oshun's story did not remain bound to the rivers of West Africa. Her influence traveled across oceans, carried in the hearts of enslaved Yoruba people during the brutal passage of the transatlantic slave trade. In the midst of unimaginable suffering, her presence was a source of strength, hope, and continuity. Wherever her people went, they believed Oshun went with them, watching over her children in distant and hostile lands. In Cuba, Oshun became known as Ochun and emerged as a central figure in the religion of Santeria. To preserve their traditions under the watchful eyes of colonial powers, Yoruba devotees employed the strategy of syncretism, blending their Orishas with Catholic saints. Oshun was identified with Our Lady of Charity, Cuba's patron saint, a connection that allowed her worship to survive in plain sight. Through this dual identity, she remained both the river goddess of Yoruba cosmology and the beloved virgin who brings hope and deliverance to the Cuban people. In Brazil, Oshun is revered as Oxum within the rich traditions of Candomblé and Umbanda, affectionately called Mama. Mama. She is cherished as the patroness of gestation and the protector of children until they are old enough to speak. Known also as the Lady of Gold, she is sought for guidance in matters of prosperity, abundance, and financial well-being. In every temple and festival, her shimmering presence continues to inspire devotion and resilience. This adaptation of Oshun's worship across the Americas is not a story of loss, but of survival. By weaving her image into the framework of Catholicism, enslaved Yoruba people ensured that her essence endured, her songs continued, and her waters still flowed. The persistence of Oshun's worship is a profound act of cultural resistance, a declaration that even in bondage, the spirit cannot be silenced. Her legacy across the diaspora is living proof that traditions can transform, adapt, and yet remain true to their divine core. Oshun's story did not remain bound to the rivers of West Africa. Her influence traveled across oceans, carried in the hearts of enslaved Yoruba people during the brutal passage of the transatlantic slave trade. In the midst of unimaginable suffering, her presence was a source of strength, hope, and continuity. Wherever her people went, they believed Oshun went with them, watching over her children in distant and hostile lands. In Cuba, Oshun became known as Ochun and emerged as a central figure in the religion of Santeria. To preserve their traditions under the watchful eyes of colonial powers, Yoruba devotees employed the strategy of syncretism, blending their Orishas with Catholic saints. Oshun was identified with Our Lady of Charity, Cuba's patron saint, a connection that allowed her worship to survive in plain sight. Through this dual identity, she remained both the river goddess of Yoruba cosmology and the beloved virgin who brings hope and deliverance to the Cuban people. In Brazil, Oshun is revered as Oxum within the rich traditions of Candomblé and Umbanda, affectionately called Mama. Mama. She is cherished as the patroness of gestation and the protector of children until they are old enough to speak. Known also as the Lady of Gold, she is sought for guidance in matters of prosperity, abundance, and financial well-being. In every temple and festival, her shimmering presence continues to inspire devotion and resilience. This adaptation of Oshun's worship across the Americas is not a story of loss, but of survival. By weaving her image into the framework of Catholicism, enslaved Yoruba people ensured that her essence endured, her songs continued, and her waters still flowed. The persistence of Oshun's worship is a profound act of cultural resistance, a declaration that even in bondage, the spirit cannot be silenced. Her legacy across the diaspora is living proof that traditions can transform, adapt, and yet remain true to their divine core. Oshun's influence extends far beyond the rituals and shrines of Yoruba-derived religions. She has become a universal symbol, an archetype of the sacred feminine, offering profound lessons for anyone seeking to understand the power of intuition, compassion, and transformative energy. Her stories and symbols teach the principle of soft power, that influence and strength need not rely on dominance or aggression. Through creativity, nurturing, and emotional intelligence, Oshun demonstrates that subtlety, grace, and empathy can shape the world as profoundly as force. She guides her followers toward healing, well-being, and spiritual alignment, modeling the profound efficacy of feminine wisdom. Beauty, in Oshun's teachings, is more than external allure. The mirror she carries reflects self-love, introspection, and inner harmony. Her message is clear. By cultivating awareness of one's own worth, one nurtures both the self and the world around them. Followers who embody her essence, wearing her colors, honoring her rituals, and reflecting on her myths, are encouraged to embrace self-care, foster joy, and radiate positivity. Oshun's legacy is as much about inner transformation as it is about external blessings. She inspires personal growth, reminding us that true power emerges from love, balance, and the courage to embrace our unique essence. In a modern world often dominated by external validation and competition, Oshun stands as a radiant symbol of emotional intelligence, resilience, and the enduring strength of the sacred feminine. The Orisha Oshun is a deity of immense depth and complexity, one who cannot be confined to a single definition. Her story begins at the heart of Yoruba cosmology, where she stands as the essential feminine force without which creation itself would have failed. From this origin, her mythology offers enduring lessons: that love and nurturing hold immense power, that true divinity is revealed through selfless sacrifice, and that beauty is measured not in appearance, but in character and action. As the divine patroness of rivers, Oshun embodies a profound duality: life-giving yet capable of destruction, gentle yet unyielding. This paradox reminds humanity that every action carries consequences, and that respect for natural and spiritual forces is paramount. Her influence, carried across oceans by enslaved Yoruba people, demonstrates the resilience of a spiritual tradition and the creative power of syncretism in preserving identity. In the modern world, Oshun transcends religious boundaries, emerging as a universal archetype of the sacred feminine. She teaches that strength resides in love, wisdom, and emotional intelligence, and that self-worth and inner harmony are sources of transformative power. Oshun is the sweet and unyielding river, flowing through myths, rituals, and hearts alike, a living reminder that life, love, and spiritual resilience are inseparable from the feminine force she embodies. Now we finalize with a message from Oshun to her followers. Beloved child of the river, remember this: I'm not only the goddess of love, beauty, and abundance, I'm the current of life itself. Oshun's profound teachings teaches us that sweetness is a power, that tenderness can heal what force cannot, and that true beauty is born from sacrifice, compassion, and self-knowledge. Her mirror is not only for reflection but for revelation, asking you to see your worth clearly and embrace the divine within. Just as the river flows with both calm waters and mighty floods, you too carry the power of creation and transformation. Oshun whispers that prosperity, joy, and love are not distant treasures. They are already flowing through you when you walk with gratitude, humility, and courage. Now is your moment. Step into the river of her wisdom. Honor your beauty, protect your sacred energy, and share your light with the world. Carry sweetness in your words, abundance in your actions, and resilience in your spirit. Walk as a child of Oshun. Flow with love, stand with power, and let the river within you never run dry.